A mysterious new object is sweeping through the inner solar system, and it's not behaving like anything we've ever seen. They're calling it 3I Atlas, the third known interstellar object to enter our solar system. But what makes this object truly historic isn't just where it came from, it's what it's doing. It has no visible tail. It accelerated against gravity. Its colour? Bluer than the sun. And on November 7th, a Harvard astrophysicist went on live TV and said, it manoeuvred. What we're witnessing may not just be a comet, it may be a probe. And in this video, you'll understand why multiple observatories, government officials, and some of the most respected names in science are now turning their attention to this unexplainable traveller. Stick with us. Because on December 19th, as 3E Atlas makes its closest pass to Earth, we may finally learn if this is natural, technological, or something far more disturbing. If you're fascinated by space mysteries, hit that like button, subscribe, and comment below where you're watching from. Let's investigate the truth behind 3I Atlas. The first reports came in early September 2025. Automated scans from NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory picked up an unusually fast-moving object entering the solar system. Its trajectory, hyperbolic, meaning it wasn't orbiting the sun, it was passing through. This matched the signature of two previous interstellar visitors. Oumuamua in 2017, 2I Borisov in 2019. So it was named 3I Atlas, in reference to the Atlas Sky Survey that first picked it up. But unlike its predecessors, this one was headed much deeper into the solar system, passing just 203 million kilometres from the sun in late October. And that's when the story broke wide open. As 3I Atlas approached perihelion, the closest point to the sun, it did something odd. Observers from the Virtual Telescope project in Italy and Las Vegas Observatory under the Galileo project detected a sudden five-fold brightening. Not uncommon for comets, but what followed was not. Spectral analysis showed the object shifted into the blue range, bluer than our sun, which burns at 5800 Kelvin. But how could an object that's cooler than the sun radiate shorter wavelengths? According to Dr. Gianluca Marsi, the Italian astronomer leading the Virtual Telescope livestream, this is extremely unusual. We don't see comets turning bluer than the sun, ever. And then came the shape anomaly. Comets develop tails because solar radiation vaporizes ices, pushing dust outward. But 3I Atlas, no classic tail. Instead, 7 visible jets emerged from its fuzzy core, without forming a structured tail or debris trail. NASA's data confirmed a 10 to 20% mass loss, a staggering figure. But even more strange, the jets didn't line up with sunlight pressure. They were directional, as if controlled. 3I Atlas rotated, and the jets followed a pattern. When mapped by the Hubble Space Telescope, they weren't, consistent with standard outgassing. They were angled, as if attempting something. Then came the shocker. On November 7th, during a live interview with Newsmax, Dr. Avi Loeb, theoretical physicist at Harvard University, said bluntly, "It manoeuvred." This was not speculation. Loeb cited orbital changes inconsistent with gravity alone. According to him, the object accelerated in a way that would require 5 billion tons of mass expelled for thrust. Yet, no corresponding debris was observed. He compared it to Oumuamua, which also changed speed, but this time the evidence was clearer. Imagine standing before a 3D model of our solar system. On October 29th, 3I Atlas rounded the sun. Instead of drifting outward on a gravity-dictated curve, it shifted course, slightly but unmistakably, as if adjusting trajectory. On November 3rd, observers from Chile Observatory and European Southern Observatory confirmed the deviation. It had accelerated perpendicular to its expected path. Trajectory modelling using NASA JPL's Horizons database showed minor but real deviations, far beyond gravitational perturbations. No natural object, asteroid or comet, has ever shown sustained non-gravitational acceleration without a visible cause. Even gas jets from comets can be modelled and accounted for. But 3I Atlas had no tail, no clear source, and bluer emissions than any comparable object. Here's the kicker: to create the motion observed, the object would need to emit 107 kilonewtons of material in a directed flow. But there's no sign of it. Dr. Loeb calls it the internal propulsion hypothesis, a radical theory. but increasingly it fits the data better than cometary activity. Just days after Loeb's statement, US Representative Anna Paulina Luna made headlines. She confirmed in a post on X, formerly Twitter, that Congress had been briefed on the object, and that she was pressing NASA to release high-rise images from the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter, which reportedly captured high-resolution images as 3I Atlas passed near Mars orbit. So far, those images have not been made public. Why the delay? That's what many are now asking, including Loeb himself. Here's a summary of what we've confirmed. Object name, 3I Atlas trajectory. Interstellar, hyperbolic speed. 150 km/s, 3x faster than fastest Earth rocket. Size, around 4.5 km diameter. Composition, nickel-rich low iron. Atypical for comets. Brightness increase, X5, Nova 69. Color shift, bluer than suntail. None visible. Jets 7 directional. Not solar-aligned acceleration. Against gravity. Unexplained date of closest approach. December 19th, 2025. And the biggest mystery of all, is this being controlled? As of this week, late November 2025, 3I Atlas is moving inbound, on a path that brings it within 0.28 AU of Earth in less than a month. Multiple observatories are training telescopes on it, including James Webb Space, Telescope Hubble, ESO Spitzer backup arrays, Galileo Project field units and amateur Phoenicics. Astronomers with access to Skive or Stellarium can now track it visually near the constellation Sagittarius, just before sunrise. Interestingly, it appears stable. No fragmentation, no debris. Just that persistent blue glow. One fringe theory, growing in online scientific circles, is that the rotational movement of 3I Atlas may be intentional. Its jets could be a means of controlled rotation, generating centripetal force, essentially mimicking artificial gravity inside a spinning body. While this remains speculative, here's what gives the idea weight. The jets fire in a synchronized pattern. Rotation is stable, not chaotic. The object maintains vector control, despite solar radiation pressure. Could this be an interstellar probe using spin for stabilization or internal gravity? Loeb isn't dismissing it. The Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter's high-rise camera reportedly had a clear shot of 3I Atlas on October 31st, just after perihelion. Normally, such images are released in NASA's planetary data system within days. But as of now, nothing. This delay has fueled calls for transparency, especially given the object's proximity to Earth and the inexplicable nature of its behaviour. Representative Luna has issued a formal request for image declassification by December 10th, ahead of the object's closest pass. If the images show structural patterns, or worse, fragmentation into smaller objects, we may not have long to prepare. Now here's where it gets even stranger. 3I Atlas's entry point, when traced backward, places it within 9 degrees of the origin zone for the famous WOW signal of 1977. Is this coincidence? Or something deeper? We've seen objects before that acted strangely, but never one this visible, this fast, and this openly abnormal. In Loeb's words, this is the first time we can prepare for an object that might be technological before it leaves our reach. Meanwhile, solar activity is rising. October and November 2025 saw multiple Class X solar flares, with radiation spikes recorded by SOHO and SA Solar Orbiter. Remarkably, 3I Atlas's jets became more active immediately after solar outbursts. Could this object be responding to solar input? Could it be absorbing radiation, intentionally? Or are we seeing solar-triggered propulsion? No known comet does this. And yet, here we are. We are just weeks away from the December 19th flyby of 3I Atlas, the closest interstellar object pass in modern history. High-power telescopes across Earth are currently in coordination. Mauna Kea Observatory, Hawaii Atacama, Large Millimeter Array, Chile Mount Palomar Observatory, California ESO's VLT, Paranal Desert, Galileo Project telescopic arrays, Nevada. These facilities are collecting continuous data in infrared, visible light, and polarization signatures. As of today, 3I Atlas remains, stable in rotation, blue shifted, emitting no debris, despite significant energy output, maintaining a nearly coplanar orbit through the plane of the planets. And now there's growing concern about what comes next. This is more than a flyby. It's a once-in-history intercept opportunity. According to Dr. Avi Loeb, the December 19th encounter could produce high-resolution radar scans using planetary radar from Goldstone and Arecibo's successor arrays, possible detection of structured surfaces or components, identification of radio signals or anomalous emissions, evidence of fragmentation or secondary objects released. This is not science fiction. NASA, ESA, and Harvard's Galileo project are coordinating passive and active scans. We're talking about multi-spectrum tracking of an object moving at over 150 km/s, bluer than the sun, with apparent vector control. According to a NASA memo leaked on November 20th, Deep Space Network stations will attempt radar imaging of 3I Atlas between December 17 and 20. They'll use Goldstone Solar System Radar, GSSR Green Bank Telescope, as receiver ESA's 35-meter dish in Cabreros, Spain for signal backup. The goal: detect rotation dynamics, structural anomalies, reflectivity patterns, which could suggest artificial materials. Fun fact: metallic objects reflect radar waves differently from silicates or ices. If 3I Atlas is a metallic probe, radar will reveal it. Here's what would shock the astronomical community: specular reflection points, sharp repeating radar reflections, geometric shape signatures, like edges, panels, or flat planes, signal echo strength suggesting metallic density, fragmented objects maintaining synchronized trajectories. Any of these would indicate non-natural behavior. And if any object appears to break off and maneuver independently, that would change everything. If you're stargazing, fire up Stellarium or Skyhive. As of late November, 3I Atlas appears faintly near the constellation Capricornus, low in the early morning sky for Northern Hemisphere viewers. By December 15-20, it will cross into Aquarius. On December 19th, at closest approach, it may be visible with a 4-inch telescope in dark sky locations, or binoculars for brighter than expected phases if jets activate again. Keep in mind, its apparent magnitude is fluctuating due to non-thermal emissions. Its brightness increased x5 in November. Another jump is possible. Amateur astronomers can contribute to the Galileo project's citizen network. Imagine being the first to spot a jet burst, or a companion object. Here's something wild. According to a November 10th white paper by Loeb's team, NASA's Juno spacecraft, currently orbiting Jupiter, could intercept 3I Atlas in March 2026 if a fast maneuver is authorized. This depends on precise alignment, currently 3.4 degree off intercept path, fuel reallocation approval. From NASA Science Mission. Directorate: why Juno? Because it has the instruments to analyze magnetic fields, measure elemental composition, detect artificial signals, or active propulsion. The window is tight. A maneuver order would have to be made by mid-January 2026. As Loeb says, this could be the first interstellar object we can chase. Besides NASA and Harvard, here are institutions currently tracking or analysing 3I Atlas, ESA, European Space Agency, Caltech's IPAC SETI Institute, via Allen Telescope Array, MIT Lincoln Lab, JPL's Centre for Near-Earth Object Studies, CNEOS, University of Bologna, Astrophysics Depth in Yamaro, University of Tokyo, Subaru Telescope. This is a global effort. Behind the scenes, there's even coordination with Air Force Space Surveillance Network, Japanese JAXA Optical Tracking Chinese Fast Radio Telescope, and yes, Israel's OFEC space program, monitoring from the Middle East. One of the most confounding developments came on November 21st, when spectroscopic readings from the VLT, Very Large Telescope, in Chile revealed a high nickel-to-iron ratio absorption lines consistent with metallic alloys, extremely low water vapor traces. Most comets, especially interstellar, should be ice-rich. 3I Atlas shows minimal water signatures, and yet it's ejecting mass. How? No known natural jet formation fits this profile. Which brings us to one of the most controversial ideas now being debated publicly. Let's revisit the motion. As mentioned in part 1, 3i Atlas is rotating, but in a pattern that suggests deliberate spin stabilization. Think about the von Braun wheel station concept. Spin something fast enough, and objects on the inside experience centripetal force, a form of gravity. Could the 7 directional jets be maintaining this spin intentionally? And if so, for what purpose? Stabilization, crew comfort, internal compartment separation? We don't know, but this is what's driving Loeb's theory. This object, he says, is doing things. Since November 9th, multiple FOIA, Freedom of Information Act, requests have been filed for high-rise imagery, radar planning documents, internal memos mentioning 3i Atlas's vector change. So far, NASA has only issued a general statement. We continue to track the object. Further data will be shared as appropriate. But with congressional pressure growing and major public interest, expect something to drop soon. Avi Loeb, for his part, has said he'll be publishing independently if delays continue. He's even hinted at private satellite imaging through corporate partners. Let's lock these in. December 10th, 2025, deadline for high-rise image release requests. December 15th and 18th, radar imaging windows open. December 19th, 2025, closest Earth approach. December 23rd, 2025, window closes for optical signatures. January 15th, 2026. Juno maneuver deadline March 16th, 2026. Theoretical Juno intercept date. Remember these. We'll refer back to them in every update video leading up to the flyby. This is the countdown to clarity, or revelation, or something we've never seen before. So what could 3i Atlas be? Here are the major theories, ranked by plausibility as of now. 21. Volatile, rich interstellar comet pros. Jets could be sublimation. No direct evidence of technology. Cons, no tail blue shift defies temperature maneuvers unexplained pros. Nickel signature matches non-volatile but spinning. Cons, directional jets hard to explain. No fragmentation observed yet, pros. Acceleration consistent with controlled thrust. Rotation suggests internal stabilization. No natural spectral signature. Cons, extraordinary claim requires extraordinary proof. Pros, could explain synchronized jets fits with possible radar reflections. Cons, no secondary objects confirmed yet. We wait, but not passively. Every new image, spectrum, and motion analysis could tip the scales. And if December 19 reveals even one sharp edge, antenna-like structure, or fragment shedding off with purpose, the world may have to accept a very new category of interstellar visitor. And if we confirm something artificial, from beyond our solar system, then 3i Atlas won't just be an object, it'll be a message. Throughout November 2025, space weather has been active, very active. NASA's SOHO, ESA's Solar Orbiter, and Japan's high-node spacecraft have all recorded a string of X-class solar flares, the most intense category. Here's the strange part. Within 12-24 hours of each major solar event, 3i Atlas showed a clear increase in jet activity, particularly from its southern rotational quadrant. What surprised many scientists was not just the timing, but the precision. 3 outbursts occurred immediately following high-energy flux impacts. Coincidence? Or is 3i Atlas reacting to solar events? Could it be absorbing energy, shielding, or even using solar radiation as fuel? According to Dr. Sahana Mehta at the Indian Institute of Astrophysics, the object's angular rotation slightly increased by about 0.004 rpm following each radiation spike. That's a change too small for most natural objects to display in such perfect rhythm. In other words, something appears to be modulating its spin rate, timed with cosmic weather. 3i Atlas, Mehta said, is either the most responsive comet in the universe or something else entirely. This leads us to a troubling idea now gaining traction among independent analysts. In early November, the SETI Institute quietly began scanning the 3i Atlas flight corridor using the Allen telescope array. Why? Because radar pulses bounced off the object. Those transmitted from Earth's deep space network were showing unusual phase scatter. That means the returning signal was changing slightly in unexpected ways, not enough to confirm intelligence, but enough to raise the possibility of surface reconfiguration or signal interference. One SETI insider, speaking anonymously, called it weird enough to watch closely. Dr. Avi Loeb's Galileo project has its own list. They call it the Technological Signature Checklist, designed to classify non-natural space objects. Here are the current markers 3I Atlas has hit. Hyperbolic trajectory, interstellar origin. No tail, despite solar proximity. Directional jets not aligned with solar radiation. Bluer spectral output than solar blackbody radiation. Rotation consistent with artificial stabilization. Nickel dominant spectrum with very low volatiles. Acceleration that violates Newtonian expectations. Out of 10 known tech markers, 3I Atlas hits at least 7. We're not claiming it's alien, Loeb says. We're saying it isn't natural as we define natural. That distinction matters. Let's revisit an old mystery. On August 15, 1977, astronomer Jerry Amon, working at Ohio State's Big Ear Radio Telescope, picked up a signal that lasted 72 seconds. It was a narrowband radio signal, extremely powerful, and came from a fixed position in the sky. He circled it and wrote simply, "Wow." To this day, it's one of the best candidates for an interstellar signal. Now here's the connection. 3I Atlas's entry vector, when traced backward through galactic coordinate mapping, passes within 9 degrees of the WOW signal's estimated source window. That may not sound like much, but in deep sky navigation, that's startlingly close. Dr. Gianluca Massi noted this in a recent virtual telescope livestream. It could be nothing, or it could be everything. Between November 6th and 9th, 7 distinct jet eruptions were recorded by both the Virtual Telescope Project and telescopes at University of Tokyo's Subaru Observatory. Each lasted between 9 to 11 minutes, spaced roughly 90 minutes apart. This pacing closely matches the orbit period of certain satellites in low Earth orbit. Coincidence? Astrophysicist Dr. Felipe Andrade from the University of São Paulo has another theory. If the object is rotating and orienting for communication or scan cycles, this could be a form of pulse mapping, a rudimentary beacon or active mapping mode. Again, no proof of intelligence, yet. But the rhythm, the angles, and the consistency remain unexplained. 3I Atlas isn't tumbling. It's not chaotic. Instead, it's gliding through space in a remarkably flat plane trajectory, almost coplanar with the solar system's ecliptic. That's not what we expect from an interstellar object randomly slung through our system. Take 2I Borisov. It entered from a steep angle and behaved like a traditional comet. 3I Atlas. It almost seems like it's riding the solar system. Even its perihelion, 203 million kilometers, was almost textbook for planetary alignment entry. Loeb calls this a gravitational surfing profile, where the object uses planetary mass curves to glide more efficiently. And it's not common. Let's talk about what's not there. No tail. None. Even tiny comets, when heated by the sun, release some dust and gas. But 3I Atlas, 203 million kilometers from the sun, receiving 17 MTW-M2 of solar radiation, heated to at least 380 Kelvin on the surface. And yet, there's no measurable water vapor. No ion tail, no dust trail, just directional jets. Again, no tail, no trail, no debris. That alone would make this a once-in-history object. Within academic circles, several working theories have emerged. Let's break them down. It's a dying comet. Only nickel left, everything else burned off. Explains mass doesn't explain jets, or manoeuvring ice is gone, but internal gas vents remain. Could explain some jet fails to explain directional accuracy. Technological object with residual function or internal drive. Fits all observed data. Highly controversial. Requires radical paradigm shift. Piece of something bigger, possibly artificial. Now coasting through. Explains shape. Nickel core. No matching trajectory fragments seen a comet or rock behaving in ways no other ever has. Saves face for current theory. Science struggles when unprecedented becomes common. Here's what we're seeing now behind the scenes. Some scientists, especially in NASA and ESA, are frustrated because the data doesn't fit the models. We can't keep calling it cometary if it doesn't act like one, said an anonymous source from the European Space Agency. It's either something new in physics or something very old in technology. The Galileo project now has private telescope time reserved every night leading up to the flyby. And Loeb has reportedly received funding from 2 unnamed aerospace firms to privately intercept or scan 3I Atlas if further anomalies are detected. This is no longer an academic curiosity. It's becoming a global investigation. We'd be remiss not to mention one of the most speculative theories out there. Dr. Elaine Kwan, astrobiologist at the University of Cambridge, has proposed that 3I Atlas may be a panspermia capsule, a biological delivery system. Her reasoning: the stable spin pattern, the protective nickel shell, no heat-dispersing tail, near UV reflective properties. These characteristics could, in theory, shield DNA-like structures on long interstellar journeys. This remains entirely unproven. But it's a reminder that if this object is not natural, its purpose may extend beyond mere exploration. It could be seeding, testing, or something stranger. Let's step back. If 3I Atlas is artificial, if it's not just a rock, not just a relic, but a technological artifact, a message in motion, then what does that mean for us? Do we respond? Do we hide? Do we send a probe? Or do we just watch and wait? The universe hasn't sent us many obvious signals. Maybe it doesn't use radio. Maybe it uses motion. And maybe, just maybe, this object is doing exactly what it was designed to do: get our attention. In just days, on December 19th, 2025, 3I Atlas will make its closest approach to Earth, just 0.28 astronomical units away. That's about 42 million kilometers. By cosmic standards, extremely close for an interstellar visitor. And during this critical 48-hour window, scientists hope to gather high-resolution radar scans from Goldstone and Greenbank optical imagery using the James Webb Space Telescope polarimetric surface analysis via ESA telescopes, infrared thermal signatures with the Spitzer follow-on arrays. But perhaps most importantly, we're hoping to catch a change, a split, a maneuver, or even an emission of structured signals. Let's walk through the 3 most discussed outcomes. Scenario 1. It fragments like a comet. This would suggest it's natural, a volatile core cracking under thermal pressure. Pros explains jets and some acceleration. Cons, still no tail, and the colour shift remains a mystery. Radar would show multiple smaller objects splitting in different vectors. This is where things get very weird. If 3I Atlas sheds one or more coordinated manoeuvring components, that would scream intelligence. Pros, fits with jet symmetry and rotation. Cons, humanity has no known precedent for observing. This scientist will be watching for synchronized movement or repeating pulses in reflected radar. If it simply glides past Earth, unchanged, stable, and defying all expectations, that may be the most terrifying outcome of all, because it means it's still watching, still waiting, still moving according to a plan we don't understand. During December 18th-20, the CT Institute, Chime Radio Telescope in Canada, and the Allen Telescope Array will run a global listening campaign. Target: the exact coordinates of 3I Atlas as it passes Earth. They'll be searching for narrowband signals, unmodulated radio bursts, structured pings, Doppler shifted echoes suggesting intentional targeting. Interestingly, on November 29th, a very brief narrow signal was detected at 1420 MHz, the hydrogen line, by the Chime telescope. It was dismissed as interference. But now, they're reopening the file. If something extraordinary is observed, movement, signal, or structure, the Galileo project has a response protocol ready. Here's what that includes: an immediate scientific alert issued to 12 partner institutions, independent confirmation within 12 hours via private observatories, public data release on a secure Galileo portal, activation of Project Alpha, a proposed CubeSat deployment within 6 months to intercept. Avi Loeb has stated, "We cannot rely on institutional delay. If this is a technological relic, we must act. Now." The closer we get to this flyby, the louder one question becomes: what if this is not an accident? What if 3I Atlas is a kind of interstellar test? It showed up silently. It rotated with mathematical consistency. It resisted heat, expelled jets, and shifted path, with purpose. And now, It's about to fly by the only intelligent species we know of that could notice. Could this object be a message, a calling card, or something more provocative? A probe watching us as we prepare to watch it. Among fringe scientists, and in a few closed-door government briefings, a theory is emerging. It's called the silent gatekeeper hypothesis. It proposes that some interstellar objects are not just probes, but monitors, passive observers seeded across star systems, waiting for a threshold to be crossed. That threshold, a species detecting them, using radio, using radar, and reacting to unexplained behaviour with curiosity, not fear. If 3i Atlas is such a device, then this flyby could be the equivalent of breaking the seal. That's not a claim, it's a possibility. But one scientists are now debating openly. In the past 8 years, we've seen Wati Oumuamua, 2i Borisov, 3i Atlas 3 interstellar visitors. All different, all inexplicable in one way or another, and each has challenged our assumptions about the cosmos. But 3i Atlas, it's the first one we can observe up close, in real time, with the full weight of 21st century science. And maybe the first one watching us back. Since Loeb's interview on November 7th, the world has taken notice. YouTube views in the millions, news segments on every major outlet, TikToks, podcasts, Reddit megathreads, and pressure mounting on NASA, ESA, and Congress to release everything. A recent poll showed 56% of Americans believe 3i Atlas may be more than natural. And internationally, scientists in Brazil, India, France, and Australia are collaborating across open networks to bypass red tape and bring raw data directly to the public. This is a new era in science. No matter what happens on flyby day, here's what we're hoping to confirm or rule out. Is 3i Atlas shedding mass in a structured way? Are its jets thermally driven or internally controlled? Does it rotate at a fixed rate or modulate in response to sunlight or Earth? Does it emit signals in any band, microwave, optical, or radio? Does radar show geometric surfaces, panels, or reflectors? Is this a one-time event or part of a larger pattern? The answers could change how we see the universe forever. Let's close with the 4 leading and most dramatic possibilities, ranked by risk. Most conservative view: a comet or asteroid with weird jets. Low risk: high curiosity, artificial, sent by a civilization, possibly long gone. Medium risk: high awe, sent to observe our behaviour or test our awareness. High risk: high philosophical consequence, deliberate insertion into a solar system to trigger something or someone. Very high risk: unknown consequences. We don't know which, if any, is true. But on December 19th, we may start to find out. Watch, record, think. And most of all, ask questions. The scientific method thrives not on answers, but on curiosity. And right now, curiosity may be our most important tool. We may not understand 3i Atlas yet, but it has already succeeded in its first mission. If you want to follow this story as it continues to unfold, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications for this channel. I'll be making follow-up videos as new data comes in, especially after December 19th, when we'll finally see what happens during the flyby. I'll also cover the radar results, telescope images, and any confirmed manoeuvres or fragmentations. Leave a comment below and tell me, do you think 3i Atlas is artificial? What's your theory? Probe, comet, or monitor? Will it break apart or activate? I read every comment, and I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thanks for watching. And remember, the answer still lies in the vastness of the stars.